Hey rock stars, Beth Azor here, and this week I posted on Facebook, rest in peace Wayne Huizenga. Wayne Huizenga was an icon in our South Florida industry. He worked, I think, in lead waste management. He started Blockbuster Video. For those of you youngsters on the call, that was a huge, very successful video chain in its era. He was very involved and possibly started AutoNation, which was car dealership chain. And he also owned the Miami Dolphins. He brought hockey to South Florida with the Florida Panthers, and he owned the Miami Marlins. So huge icon in South Florida. And I had posted, rest in peace, Wayne. You taught me one of the most valuable lessons in my career. And a bunch of you had said, what was the lesson? So because the story is too long to write on Facebook in the comment section, I thought I would give you guys a video and let you know about the story of myself and Mr. Wayne Huizenga. So I was in the business all of about a year, and I was very cocky and arrogant. Knew it all. I was leasing, I think, about 17 shopping centers at the time, and I got a call one day from a guy on a scratchy cell phone. You know, back then, I'm aging myself, but back then when this happened, there weren't a lot of people that had cell phones. Can you imagine that? And so he says, hey, I'm interested. So this property was an L-shaped 18,000 square foot center in Lake Worth. For those of you not familiar with South Florida, not the booming metropolis. And it was an L-shaped on this major thoroughfare, and it had a Sherwin-Williams in the out parcel blocking 90% of the visibility and exposure of the whole center. The entire center was vacant except for a bar called the Thirsty Camel in one of the wings of the L-shaped center. So completely empty. And I had this beautiful 6,000 square foot vacancy right on the road, you know, perfect exposure, visibility, ingress and egress. So this gentleman calls and says, hi, I want to lease that end cap of your plaza. And I said, sure, you know, what do you do? And I go, what kind of business are you in? And he says, oh, I want to open a video store. And I laughed out loud. I'll never forget it. I went, ha, video store? I said, the space is 6,000 square feet. What could you possibly want to do in a 6,000 square foot video store? And he said the following sentence, which those of us that have been in the leasing business for a while have heard multiple times. Oh, I'm starting a new company, and this is going to be my prototype, and I'm going to expand, you know, to lots and lots of locations. And I think I said to him, oh, sir, I'm sure you are, but my boss told me that the space is got plumbing and electrical for a restaurant, so we need to lease to a restaurant space. So he said, oh, I really like the spot. I love the visibility and exposure. If your boss changes his mind, why don't you take down my name and my cell phone number? Like, that should have been my clue, but no, you know, not listening. And I said, take down my name and number and write it down. And if your boss changes his mind, give me a call because I really like the spot. And I said, okay. And back then we didn't have CRM. We had prospect sheets that you hand wrote all of the information in, you know, answering the questions. And then you had this thing, this accordion file that had months. I'm really aging myself. And you would take the prospect sheet, and if it was something that was not, you know, even if you didn't think it would lead to anything, you kept the prospect sheets because you always wanted to show your boss, look at all these prospects I'm working on. So I wrote down the information, Wayne Huizenga, did not ask him how to spell it. I spelled it phonetically, which completely botched the proper spelling of his name. I wrote down his number, and I literally wrote, I wish I would have kept it and framed it, video store, 6,000 square feet. Ha! I'm so arrogant, so arrogant. Don't be arrogant. So, and I put it 12 months later in my accordion file, tickler file. So I completely forget about Mr. Huizenga, and 12 months later I pull out my prospects and I'm going through them, and up comes Mr. Huizenga's prospect sheet, video store, 6,000 square feet. And I know you guys know the punchline. They had about 40 locations opened at the time, like crazy. And, you know, it was very funny because years later, I was running the ICSC, International Council of Shopping Centers, Florida conference, and he was our keynote speaker. So I'm sitting next to him on the dais as he's about to give his keynote. And of course, you know, I'm a teacher, so, you know, well, backing up, I had to share with him the story. He thought it was hilarious, and of course got up on the dais and then shared the story with, you know, 3,000 of my closest friends. But it didn't upset me. I thought it was funny because I am a teacher, and if you guys can learn from my stupidity and arrogance, I want that to happen. So, but the moral of the story was I needed to do one thing. One thing. Instead of, you know, talking and telling him, you know, never did I say, well, sir, what do you do now? And he would have said, oh, I run waste management. So I probably would have showed him the space, you know. So moral of the story, don't be arrogant. You can learn from anyone, and you never know. You never know. Everyone started with one location. Who was I, right? Who was I? So ask questions. What do you do now? Why do you want to do this business? Why do you think it's going to be successful? So, so yes, and many of you actually wrote back on the Facebook post and said, I know that story because I've shared the story again and again and again. We never know who we're talking to. Those of you that lease 30, 40, 50 shopping centers, I know it's hard for you to return all the phone calls, but so for maybe not easy for you guys, but those of you that have 5 shopping centers, or like I did, 17 shopping centers, take an extra minute and ask the appropriate questions. So that's my moral of the story. Rest in peace, Mr. Huizenga. You were a blessing to South Florida. You know, your lovely wife, Marty, died, I think, a couple years ago. So I'm sure you two are together in heaven and enjoying a cocktail. So have a great afternoon, rock stars, and learn from my mistakes. Ciao.